I don't understand. Like I put this here and the camera is like, oh, I should focus on something over here that's not even a face. That's like my Cal Ripken bobblehead. But anyway. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 62 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and I'm here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I will also be talking about all things knitting and yarn related, and maybe not so knitting and yarn related. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen Janik. I'm a semi-retired knitting pattern designer, a knitting instructor, and an all-around knitting enthusiast. I am podcasting to you from the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., where I live with my husband, 2 little boys, annoying dog, and grumpy old lady cat. When I'm not knitting, you can find me vegetable gardening, watching Orioles baseball, doing yoga, drinking wine, but it's mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and start talking about it. All right, challenge accepted, where I tell you about challenges I have set for myself and actually finishing them. And so I finished something for my Make 9 2022, and it is this, my Kinikin Cardigan. So I actually just finished this a couple of days ago. I think it finished blocking yesterday, but I'm actually getting to wear it because it has been surprisingly fallish here in Maryland for the last week or so. Right now it's about 64 degrees, but when I woke up this morning, it was about 44 degrees. So definitely, especially in the morning, light sweaters are, maybe even heavy sweaters are appropriate. In case you're unfamiliar, the Make 9, the beginning of the year, you pick 9 projects you want to finish during the year. I don't know if Make 9 is just because that's what fits in like an Instagram grid, a 3x3 grid on Instagram. I don't know where it came from. I also think it probably originated in sewing, but here we are. So this was one of the projects that was on my Make 9 for the year, and it is done. So you can see a little bit more here. So this is a pattern by Tara Lynn Morrison, who is Goodnight Day on Instagram. And she does all of these very chunky, minimalist garments. So she does the patterns, but she also sells hand knit garments as well. This is very comfortable, but I really think I made the wrong yarn choice here. The pattern calls for a super bulky yarn, I want to say, maybe just bulky, but a lot of those higher up designations for yarns are kind of meaningless. Like bulky, super bulky, chunky, they kind of get mixed up. So, and this yarn is categorized as super bulky, but it's also really airy. And it does not have a lot of structure knit at this gauge. Now this is, this sweater was mostly knit on US 19 needles. I have shown these before. They look like something you might use to attack a vampire. They are rather large, but are probably appropriate for a chunky yarn that is a little bit denser. But this yarn, this is Amano Yarn's Buyu, which is a baby alpaca silk blend. Buyu means cloud in Quechua. So that probably should have been a clue that this was going to be not the right yarn. It is so light and airy and beautiful, but it's not giving a whole lot of structure to this, which is fine. But it's also, I was kind of hoping it was maybe going to plump up a little bit when I blocked it, and it really didn't. So you can see this is a rather open weave. So despite this being, I think it's like 70% baby alpaca, it's actually not all that warm. I mean, it's warm, but air goes through it very easily. So it's fine for today, this kind of weather, but probably in the depths of winter, not really gonna be keeping me all that warm. Although I am just wearing a tank top under it, so I guess if I layered a little better. So I knit the pattern is just has like a small medium and a medium large, just 2 sizes. So I knit the small medium. I did not check my gauge. And my reason for that was that I was already knitting on US 19 needles. That's what the pattern called for. I certainly wasn't going to go up a needle size, and if I needed to go down a needle size, I didn't have a US 17 needle, nor was I going to buy yet another set of needles for this project. And since the size range was just kind of so broad, it didn't really matter if the sweater came out a little big or a little small. So it is a nice size. I mean, it's nice and roomy. There's no button band or anything here. It is just a raw finished edge. I love how big the sleeves are. My sleeves are not the same length. I ran out of yarn right at the end with about 5 rounds to go to do the cuff on this one. And I just didn't feel like dealing with that. So I just ripped out about 5 rounds and knit the cuff, knowing that my sleeves are going to be 2 different lengths. I should have ripped out the other sleeve and distributed the yarns, they'd be even, but I just didn't really care at this point. I was actually I don't like working on really big needles. I really never have. And so I did it because I really wanted the sweater, but I was just done. So I just didn't. Maybe someday I will go back and fix them. But I did not. So my sleeves are actually 2 different lengths, but I don't think anybody's looking, but you can definitely see there. This one is a little bit longer. It's, like I said, really comfy and cozy and soft. Great to kind of throw on around the house. I don't know how well it's how long it's going to last. It is a light, airy yarn. It is knit at a loose gauge. None of this spells long-lasting, hard-wearing sweater, unfortunately, but it is something nice to wear for now, and so that is what I will do. So I checked another item off of my Make 9 for the year. I do have a couple more things on there, and I will do an update maybe in a future episode about those. I did swatch for another item on my Make 9. So, well, first let me show you the yarn I'm using for this. This is Kim Dye's yarn. This was her colorway of the month a couple of months ago. This is called Lady Slipper. And you can see it just has all these like pinks and grays and off-whites and creams. Really, really beautiful. Just a very slight color variation in there. So this is her Brioche DK, which is her super wash. She has another DK yarn called Crumpets, which I used to design a sweater earlier this year. Maybe you recall this. There'll be a link in the description box down below. But that is more of a rustic yarn, and for this I wanted something just a little bit softer and cozier. So that is what I am using for my main color for, I thought I printed out the pattern, but I didn't, the Magnolia Chunky cardigan. So I'll put a photo of that in here. And interestingly enough, I really didn't realize this when I was looking at the pattern. I just thought it looked beautiful. It calls for being double-stranded with a, what's it called? Mohair silk lace weight. But it actually calls for being triple-stranded. So it's 1 strand of this, 2 strands of this, which I guess makes it extra, not only extra soft and fuzzy, but also makes it more like a chunky weight yarn. I was always curious why it was called Magnolia Chunky when it was knit in a DK weight yarn, but it's because you're using also the 2 strands of the mohair, which is taking it up a notch. Now I did swatch, and this, you can see some of this color variation in here, just really beautiful. I wasn't really paying attention, and it said what the gauge was, which is about 4 stitches to the inch. So I grabbed my US 8 needles, which seemed like a good choice for a DK weight yarn, even holding double with 2 strands of the silk mohair, and I got gauge. But it turns out the pattern says you're supposed to get gauge with US 10. I find that odd. Regardless, I got gauge with the US 8, so that is what I'm going to be knitting it on, but that is a big needle discrepancy for me, and especially because I'm usually a tight knitter and have to go up a needle size. So it is what it is. I will just go ahead and knit it on the 8 because that's giving me the gauge that's called for in the pattern, and that is what is most important, not the pattern or the needle size called for in the pattern. I love the fabric this is making. I wonder if you can see some of the floof. If I keep my face out of it. It's so fuzzy and soft. So I did swatch for the next project on my Make 9, and now that I have the Kinikin cardigan off the needles, I will be casting that on soon. But I want to make more progress on the design I'm working on first, which I will tell you about next. All right, so if you have caught any of the sweater workshop tutorials that I have been uploading over the last month or so, you will know that I'm currently designing a saddle shoulder sweater. And here is what it looks like right now. Please cooperate. There we go. So since I was doing that video series, I wanted to do the last video in the series before too much time passed. So I went ahead, I knit a little bit of the body after the split, and then I went ahead and put the body on hold so I could finish up the videos with the set-in sleeve, seamless set-in sleeve tutorial. So that is, some people do knit this way. They knit the body a little bit and then do the sleeves so that they don't have to deal with the body taking up so much space while they're working on the sleeves. I don't typically do that, but I just happened to do it this time. And since, so I did that because I wanted to, like I said, finish the video series, but then with the sleeve already on the needle, I figured I may as well just finish one sleeve, then go knit the body, then knit the other sleeve, and we'll be done. So the sleeve, you can see, this is, again, this is a seamless set-in sleeve, which I love. It is just so neat and tidy. And then the sleeve, you can see, is this, just some textured stitch and carrying some of the twisted rib from the saddle down the one part of the sleeve. There is no sleeve shaping here. I want these to be kind of a little bit of, I guess, a balloon sleeve, so I'm just knitting them straight, and then when it gets to the cuff, we'll do a round of decreases and then work the cuff. So I'm getting kind of pretty close here to finishing one sleeve. I do want to show you the back because I just love these cables, and I hope it's focusing. I think it is. I really love the cables. Not to toot my own horn, but I really like the way that they came together. Something I find challenging as a knitwear designer is coming up with cable stitch patterns that aren't too like predictable, like just like a staghorn cable, or a mix of more interesting cables, but putting them together in a way that feels coherent. So I've been very happy with the way that this all came together here. And of course, it is down the fronts is similar. Of course, there's still a lot of work to do on this, and it's not going as fast as I hoped. Probably because I keep stopping to record videos of myself knitting it. I really want to get it done for mid-October. I mean, by the time you're watching this, tomorrow's, or by the time this drops, tomorrow's October 1st. I don't know when you're going to watch it, but that's not very far away. And I still have the whole body. I want it to be a longer body. It's going to have pockets. It is going to have, it's an open front, but with kind of like touching button bands that come together in a V-neck, kind of are close in the middle and then split away again. I want it to have a rounded hem. I want it to have a big collar. There's just a lot left to do here. It's not going as quickly, as I would like it to. But it is well underway, and you will be seeing it definitely in October, the pattern. I don't know, mid-October might be a stretch, but it will be coming in October, and you can look for information about that here on the YouTube channel, or you can make sure that you are subscribed to my newsletter, which is linked in the description box down below. So I am working on this with Hudson & West Forge. I want to say the colorway is something like Red Leaf. This is a worsted weight yarn. This is one of my absolute favorite sweater yarns. It is just, it's like the perfect mix of like soft, but not, still a little toothy, like has a little grip to it. It's just, I absolutely love the Hudson & West Forge. So if you are ever looking for a worsted weight yarn that is gonna, have nice popping cables, still be soft enough to wear next to the skin, this is just a really great choice. So that is coming along, and I really want to put some more work on this before I cast on any other projects like the aforementioned Magnolia Chunky. Something I will probably do with that is a companion hat pattern. It's something I've done in the past. A few years back, I designed the Diego cable cardigan, and then released a hat pattern with similar cables. And I'm thinking about doing that again, just because I do like the way that the cables turned out, and I know not everybody is ready to tackle a sweater, especially this one, which is, a bit more complicated than your average sweater with the saddle shoulders and the pockets and all that I plan to have going on with it. So that is the major design thing I'm working on right now. I was working on a reboot of my sound side pullover to make it a cardigan. I've just kind of given up on that. The yarn isn't working. I'm not that excited about the idea anymore. Sometimes it happens. Maybe I'll come back to that idea eventually, but I'm not really messing with it right now. I do have another sweater design I am planning on for the late fall, early winter, and so once this is done, I will get into that. I will show you the yarn for it, which I think I may have shown you guys before. So this is a lace weight yarn from Sonder Yarn Company. I am still looking for the perfect silk mohair or cereal alpaca mohair to pair with it, but this color is really beautiful, and that will be coming sometime in the near future. All right, on and off the needles, since I was mostly working on the cardigan design and then my Kinikin cardigan, I don't have much else to show you, but I did put something back on the needles. Sort of. I never really took it off the needles. It's just been sitting there and I've been ignoring it. This is my Andawa. This is the front. The front and the back are identical. This is a drop shoulder pullover that is worked from the bottom up. The designer, I want to say, is Michelle Wang, published by Brooklyn Tweed, I think. And I am knitting this in Magpie Fibers. It's a discontinued yarn. It's what came before their nest worsted. Domestic worsted, I think. And the colorway is Norwegian wood. So I started this a while ago and got frustrated with it because all of the stitch pattern charts are on like different pages, and I kept having to flip around, but I feel like I just wasn't in the right mind space, because when I picked this up the other day, and I don't remember why, I was just looking for something that I, you know, wasn't designing, just was knitting. I looked at it and I was like, all of these cables are really straightforward. I don't even need the charts. Like, I don't know what my problem was, that I just could not wrap my brain around the stitch patterns and realize that I didn't need to keep looking at the chart. So it's some twisted rib. It's, you know, this is a 2x2, you know, right twist or left twist. This is a 4-stitch cable. These are really the only tricky parts, knowing when to stop and start these traveling stitches. And then everything else is a really basic cable that I just, for whatever reason, could not wrap my brain around. So I started working on it again, and once I checked the chart a few times for those traveling stitches, it was fine. So I am now working on this with no charts. I don't need to check the charts. I really don't know what my problem was. So this has become a good, I mean, it is very cabled, so I can't necessarily watch something while I'm doing it, just because I have to keep looking down to cable. But I also don't need to keep checking something, so I can listen to something. I can kind of watch, you know, especially on wrong side rows. I am now rewatching Outlander for like the billionth time, and since I've already seen that a lot, I can watch that and work on this. So I have been stitching on this a fair bit. As I mentioned previously, the front and back of this are identical, and then it's a drop shoulder, so you just seam the shoulders and then pick up the sleeves, which means once I get to the back, it's going to be very repetitive, and I can't promise I will keep going with it, but it is sort of back on the needles and making a good project to work on when I don't want to be focusing on a design or something I have to pay super close attention to, now that I've suddenly managed to read my own knitting and remember how cabling works. The other project that I recently finished is this little bit of knitting studio decor. This is knit with fairy lights, and I wish I could show you how it lights up, but the cord doesn't stretch all the way to the wall while I'm sitting in front of the camera. So I bought a kit for this probably 2 years ago from Layla Raven. I don't think she's selling the kits anymore, but you could probably kind of source this for yourself if you wanted. So these are just this style of fairy lights. These plug in. I think you can get battery powered, which might be even more convenient. Just some nice quality straight needles. These are US 11. These are from Xiaogu. And you basically just cast on, knit for a while, stop in the middle of the row, make sure your last row of stitches is really tight so it stays on, and then you just use your hands to kind of stretch it out to the shape that you want. She did include like a little pattern with her with the kits as well, but it really is like cast on, knit, bind off, or not bind off, leave on the needles. I do wish I had cast on further away from the cord. I don't have a very long cord, so this is kind of hung pretty low on the wall. It is not pleasant really to knit with fairy lights, as you might imagine. It's not hard, but it just doesn't feel great on your hands, so I could redo it, but I'm just not going to. But it's still really cute. The fairy lights have a bunch of different settings, and it comes with a remote, so I can just turn it on from my desk and set it. You know, it has like flashing and then like fading in and out and different things. So it's just a really cute piece of decor, and I had the kit for, like I said, a couple of years and just finally decided to tackle it. So as I said, she's not selling these anymore, I don't believe, but you could probably source this relatively easily from get some lights on Amazon and just order a nice pair of wooden needles to display it, and that's pretty much it. It really is cute though. My son told me he wants one, so I may end up knitting it again against my will. Who am I to say no if somebody wants knitted lights hanging in their room? But really cute, and that is the other sort of finished object I have to show you. News and events. So I'm going to tell you about an event that is not my event, but that I am nonetheless excited about. So one of my very favorite knitting podcasters is back in action, and that is Taylor Earl over at the Wool Needles Hands podcast. So she had disappeared for a while, and that was a real bummer for me, but she is back, and now she's like posting all the time, and she is hosting a knit along for the fall. I do not need to participate in any new knit alongs. I really have enough going on, but just hearing her like talk about this project, how excited she was about it, I was forced, obviously, to purchase yarn so that I can participate. So she's hosting the Felix for Fall KAL, which is a knit along for the Felix Pullover or Cardigan by Amy Christophers. I will put a photo in here. So this is like a nice basic throw over everything sweater for your fall and winter coziness needs. I'm going to be knitting the pullover, and I did buy yarn, so I want to show you guys that as well. The pattern calls for an Aran weight yarn, so I have picked a nice worsted weight 2-hole double with a silk mohair, because apparently that's the only way that I make sweaters now. I don't know. So I am mildly obsessed with Durarum Natura's Gilead yarn, which is unfortunate because not a lot of places in the US sell it. I also like their Elise. I think they're basically just 2 different weights of the same kind of wool base, so that makes sense. Not a lot of places in the US sell it. And one place that does is Fiber Space in Alexandria, which I do go to once or twice a year to visit, because that's about 45 minutes away from me. But they don't have it in their online shop. And the KAL starts on October 1st. I know I wasn't going to have time to drive down there before then and find out that they didn't have enough of the color I wanted and order, you know, from somewhere abroad and have it arrive in time. So I ordered my Gilead from Espace Tricot in Canada. This is the Foret colorway, which my French is pretty lousy, but I'm pretty sure that's forest. And it is just this slightly muddy, very foresty green. What does the, like, I don't understand. Like, I put this here and the camera is like, oh, I should focus on something over here that's not even a face. That's like my Cal Ripken bobblehead. But anyway, so see if I put it right in front of the camera, if it'll focus for you on this. Just beautiful, like I said, slightly muddy, very foresty green. And this slightly greener, slightly cooler green, which is called bottle green. And this is a silk mohair for knitting, from Knitting for Olive. So I think they're gonna pair nicely together. I have not swatched yet. I'm gonna do that tonight for Wine Wednesday. Maybe I'll swatch so that I can cast on actually on October 1st. So the knit along that Taylor is hosting starts October 1st. She does have a prize for it, which is some of her beautiful yarn. And if you're not aware, she recently made some changes to her dyeing business, and will not have regular sweater quantity ordering anymore. She's just gonna have, you know, I think, was I say every 2 weeks or something, updates with her like beautiful colors. But if you miss an update, you gotta look till the next update. She's not gonna have regular stock or special quantity ordering in her store anymore. So participating, you get a chance to win some of her beautiful yarn. So Taylor herself has apparently knit like 3 or 4 of these sweaters, making some modifications, slight differences to each one. They really look just like a great, cozy, kind of go with everything. That's why one of the reasons I picked kind of a neutral-ish color combination to just be able to go with kind of everything. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting to work with the Gilead again. I am looking forward to, it's a relatively straightforward sweater. There's nothing super fancy going on, so I'm looking forward to kind of a simpler knit. I am looking forward to participating in one of Taylor's knit-alongs, just because if you don't watch her podcast, you absolutely should. She's just the cutest thing. She has the most beautiful, she dyes the most beautiful yarns. She is just the cutest thing talking about her projects, and for whatever reason, every time she like shows something on her podcast, I'm like, oh, I need that. I'm pretty sure that's why I knit the Kinikin Cardigan, because I saw it on her podcast. So definitely check that out. I'm gonna do a little over here so you guys don't miss it. So Felix for Fall KAL starts October 1st. Check out Taylor's podcast, and I hope to see you in the knit-along. Other events, Rhinebeck is coming. I am not going to Rhinebeck this year. I talked about this in the previous podcast. We spent a lot of money on a big birthday party for my dad and sort of a long weekend in an Airbnb up in upstate New York in prime leaf peeping season is not in our budget this year. I'm really sad about it. It has been, seems like forever since I've been to Rhinebeck. And all of the other sort of events that go on around Rhinebeck. I really hate to miss out on it again. So I know other people are looking forward to it though, and so if you are one of them, I hope you will be enjoying yourself. Rhinebeck, in case you are not aware, is the New York State Sheep and Wool Festival. It will be taking place the weekend of October 15th in Rhinebeck, New York. It is, if not the most popular, I'm pretty sure it's the most popular, and one of the largest sheep and wool festivals in the country. Always a good time. So if you are able to make it up there, definitely you want to check that out. It is an experience that I am very sad to miss out on, but I don't want you to miss out on it. So Rhinebeck, if you didn't know, it's coming in about 2 weeks. All right, so sewing. What I've been mostly working on for the last couple of weeks was a pair of overalls for my sister. But since I don't have a good photo, I can't really model them myself, and I haven't given them to her yet. I will show that to you another time and just tell you about what's kind of lounging in this chair here, which I have started my first project from my, what's it called? Design Your Wardrobe kind of challenge project thingy that I did with Seamwork. And unfortunately, I seem to have decided to start with the most ambitious project. So let me pop a photo in here. This is the Matilda dress by Megan Nielsen. And not only is it a shirt dress, which has a lot of moving pieces. It has like a back yoke and a front yoke, and then the front sides, and then there's a big button placket down the front. I've never sewn buttonholes, and it's got pockets, and so there's a lot going on. But also I decided to knit it in this plaid fabric that I absolutely adore, but that requires a lot of extra effort to match the pattern, which I didn't think about. Now, because there is a big button band down the whole front of the dress, there's less worry about matching things in the front, so that's one nice thing. I also did cut some pieces on the bias intentionally to kind of break up the pattern. So the button band, for example, I'm not trying to get the button band to match either side of the dress. I'm trying to create sort of like a visual break there with a diagonal kind of patterning. I have no idea how I did on this, and I won't know until I sew the whole thing up. One of the first things I attempted to do was to cut the pockets to match the pattern. And the first time I did it, I screwed it up, but I think I got it this time. So it's not going to be 100% perfect, but it's also not going to be glaringly wrong. It's going to blend in, I think, well enough, because you can see that pockets are kind of like a triangular shape on the front of the skirt. So just cutting out first of all, cutting out all the paper pattern pieces, and then cutting out the actual fabric while trying to match the plaid patterning. And then cutting out all the interfaces and fusing all the interfaces. Just that took like a week and a half. I mean, I was doing other things, but. And then it was just last night that I started sewing the pockets and realized I had screwed them up. So then this morning I went and tried to attempt to redo them so that they match. Like I said, I think I suspect it's not going to be spot on, but I think I got it pretty well, even assuming some parts of it are going to get lost to seam allowances. It may not be 100%, like I said, but the other way I had the previous pockets were like completely wrong. And this, you know, it might be off by a couple of millimeters, but I think it's going to be right. So I think I'm going to be working on that for a few weeks. Like I said, it has a lot of moving parts. I have not sewn a shirt before, or like not that kind of shirt. It's kind of like a button-down shirt. And there's just a lot of pieces to it. So we'll see how it goes. That does seem to be the most ambitious project of the bunch that I have planned for the fall. Other than that, I will show you some fabric I got though. So I got fabric for a bunch of fall/winter projects. This one's probably the most or least interesting. This is a flannel. It's a herringbone flannel in gray for a pinafore, which incidentally, I have planned a sweater to go with. So this actually is from Fiber for the People, Taylor Earl's dyeing company. So I bought this a while back for something else and it just didn't quite work out. What was it? I bought it for the Daydream sweater by Andrea Mallory, and which is another sweater held double with mohair, and my mohair pairing didn't work. I used the mohair for something else, but I still have this yarn, and I have planned to knit a heirloom jumper by Fable Knits, and I'm going to use this yarn. This is Taylor's Sapphire colorway, so you can see this is just a beautiful deep blue with some blacks in there. Really stunning. It's a fingering weight yarn. I cannot remember which base I purchased it on. It is very soft though, so I'm gonna, yeah, so this sweater is shedding on everything. It is very soft though, so I want to say it seems soft, but not super sturdy, so I want to guess that this is probably like a 100% merino, superwash merino base. So that is to go with this fabric. Then the rest of these fabrics I purchased from Hawthorne Fabric Company or Hawthorne Supply Company, one of the two. And they digitally print some of their fabrics, which I have not dealt with before, and I don't know if I'm going to like, but we'll see. I have washed all of these and dried, and there was no fading, so that seems like a good start. So I got this one for a dress. And so these are all, I'm trying to keep them in my color wheelhouse that I have planned for my Design Your Wardrobe. So this is for some kind of dress. This one is, no, that one's for a skirt. This one is for a shirt. You can get it's so hard for me to tell what's focusing. So they're little pumpkins in there and acorns. only got 2 yards of this yet though, and a couple of the shirt patterns I've been looking at are more than that, so I gotta keep looking. And then this last one is the one that's for a dress. This one is super fallish. I just love this. So I washed and dried all of these. They still seem a little stiff. They're all either cotton or one of them is a cotton linen. They still seem a little stiff. I'm still unsure about this digital fabric printing, but we'll see how they turn out, and either I'll love it or I will have learned a valuable lesson. All right, I am going to skip the Chatterbox segment today because I feel like I have been talking forever. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 62 of the Hilo and Stitch podcast. Show notes with links to everything that I've talked about can be found at mediaperuana.com/Hilo and Stitch. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons who help keep the podcast and the whole Media Peruana Knits channel up and running. If you are interested in some behind the scenes perks and freebies and other goodies, you can find more information about that at patreon.com/mediaperuana. Here on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep up with other content on the channel, which includes tutorials and some other short video series, please subscribe. Anything you see, if you can like and share, it is greatly appreciated and helps expand the reach of the channel. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time. Okay, so this, I have it on the fade setting, so it goes faster and slower in and out. It starts out fading in and out slowly, and then it picks up speed.